Joy unseen. Where the machine ends, she begins. Tina Khatri. Copyright page. Legal information about the copyright. Copyright 2025, Tina Khatri. All rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced in any form or by any means without written permission from the publisher, except in the case of brief quotations embodied in critical articles and reviews. Preface. In an age dominated by technology and convenience, the human experience can sometimes feel diminished comfort replacing challenge, automation replacing connection. Taasi is a story born out of the yearning to rediscover what it truly means to live joyfully. It explores the fragile balance between progress and humanity, solitude and togetherness, perfection and imperfection. Through the journey of Taasi, a young woman seeking meaning beyond the synthetic comforts of her futuristic world, these novel invites readers. As a writer and a seeker, I have long been fascinated by the delicate interplay between technology and spirituality, progress and tradition. Taasi was born from a desire to imagine a world where these seemingly opposing forces might harmonize, allowing us to reclaim the joy that often slips through the cracks of modern life. The characters and settings in this novel are a blend of inspiration from real places, ancient wisdom and contemporary reflections. Their journey is not just theirs alone, but an invitation for all of us to explore what it means to be truly alive. Thank you for joining me on this adventure. May Taasi inspire you to seek your own joy in unexpected places. Prologue. In the beginning there was struggle, and in struggle, meaning. But by the year 2148, struggle had become obsolete. Cities gleamed silent and spotless. Skyscrapers pulsed with algorithmic rhythm. Autonomous systems managed every aspect of daily life, from meals and medication to emotions and memories. Children were raised in pods where discomfort was considered a design flaw. Conflict was a glitch. Grief was something you could opt out of. Humanity had traded pain for peace, but also unknowingly traded joy for convenience. Taasi had grown up in one of the inner grid zones, sleek, climate-controlled, perfectly secure. Everything worked. Everyone smiled. Yet something inside her felt unfinished, like a book with blank pages at the end. She didn't know what she was missing, only that she felt its absence in her bones. The dream started on her 16th scan cycle. Flickers of unfamiliar places, open skies, ancient trees, bare feet on cracked earth. A rust-colored temple rising out of mist. And always a voice, warm, weathered and gentle, whispering, "Come home." When she searched the central archives, there was nothing. Her birth records were redacted. Her ancestry tagged as non-essential. She wasn't supposed to ask questions, but curiosity, it seemed, had survived the purge. One name slipped through the cracks: Shirdi. That was where the noise stopped. The control broke. The silence began to breathe. Now, standing at the edge of that forgotten place, Taasi knew she hadn't come to recover data. She had come to remember something far older than memory, a way of living that wasn't programmed, a kind of joy born not from perfection but from imperfection. She didn't know yet that others had heard the same call, that she wasn't alone, and that deep within these ruins something ancient and alive still waited. She thought about the world she had left behind, the city where every need was met before it could be felt, where life had been smooth and efficient, yet hollow. "How can something so simple feel so distant?" she whispered to the rising sun. At that moment, a voice startled her. "You speak to the trees?" Turning, she saw a small boy emerge from the underbrush. His dark eyes were curious, framed by tousled hair dusted with leaves. Taasi smiled. "I am trying to learn," she said softly. "To listen." The boy nodded, as if he understood. "My grandmother says the trees remember everything. If you listen carefully, they will tell you stories." Intrigued, Taasi asked, "What stories do they tell you?" "About the village when it was full of people," he said. "About the festivals, the songs, and how everyone helped each other." She says that's where real happiness lived. Taasi's heart lifted. Perhaps she was not alone in this quest. Over the next few days, she settled into a slow rhythm. She woke with the sun, tended the small garden she'd started, and ventured through the woods, learning the language of the forest, the rustle of leaves, the chatter of birds, the hum of insects. The simplicity of these moments brought a quiet joy, a sharp contrast to the artificial perfection of her previous life. One evening, as she sat beneath the stars, she opened her journal and wrote, "Joy is not in a perfect moment, but in the messy, beautiful imperfection of living. In the sweat of planting a seed, in the crackle of a fire, in the shared smile of a stranger." Her fingers paused over the page. She realized that joy was not a place or a thing, but a state of being, one she had forgotten how to find. Just as she felt herself growing rooted in this ancient land, word came from a local elder about a man living in the Himalayas, an ascetic who had spent years meditating in search of peace and joy but had found only silence and solitude. Taasi's curiosity and resolve deepened. She felt a pull towards the mountains, as if her path was now clear. Packing lightly, she prepared for the journey to the Himalayas, carrying only what was essential, a few clothes, her journal, and the seeds she had gathered. Before she left, she stood once more among the ruins, her gaze lifting to the sky. "Thank you for showing me the way," she whispered. She felt a breeze sweep past her, as if in reply. At the village edge, the small boy she had met earlier came running up. "Will you come back?" he asked, eyes wide. Taasi knelt to his level. "Yes, I will. And next time you will help me listen to the trees." He smiled brightly, and with that she set off, toward the mountains, toward the unknown, guided by a simple truth. Joy is found not in ease or technology, but in the messy, imperfect moments that make life worth living. The road ahead was long and uncertain, but for the first time in a long while Taasi felt hope, real raw hope, sparkling in her heart like the first light of dawn. Chapter 2: The Meeting of Two Journeys. The mountain air carried a chill, sharp and clear against the skin, mingling with the earthy scent of pine needles and damp soil. Sael sat cross-legged on a moss-covered stone, his eyes closed as the first rays of dawn brushed the peaks beyond. Years of meditation had taught him patience, but today frustration simmered beneath his calm exterior. He exhaled slowly, trying to center himself, yet the elusive joy he sought remained distant, a faint whisper lost among the mountain winds. A crunch of gravel nearby broke the silence. Sael's eyes snapped open. From the thin mist emerged a figure, steady and purposeful. A young woman, her hair tied loosely, her eyes bright despite the rugged terrain. "Hello," she said softly, voice carrying in the stillness. Sael regarded her carefully. Visitors to these heights were rare, and few dared the solitude he embraced. "Greetings. What brings you to this forsaken place?" She smiled, a curve of determination and something deeper, a quiet hope. "I'm searching for something. Joy, they say, can be found here, in simplicity, in life untouched by endless machines and distractions. My name is Taasi." Sael studied her, intrigued. "I am Sael. You seek joy in a place where few find even peace. What makes you believe it exists here?" Taasi sat beside him, brushing leaves from her trousers. "Because joy isn't something to chase. It's something to feel, in the wind, in the earth, in imperfections. I come from a world wrapped in convenience and comfort. But it's empty. I left it all behind to find what was lost." A flicker of recognition crossed Sael's face. "I have been here years seeking the same. Yet joy slips through my fingers, as elusive as the morning mist." Taasi's gaze held his. "Maybe we've both been looking for the wrong way." The fragile moment stretched between them, broken by a sudden rustle in the nearby undergrowth. Sael stood quickly, hand reaching instinctively towards a stick resting against a tree. "Did you hear that?" Taasi whispered. Sael nodded, eyes narrowing. "You're not alone here." The presence was no mere animal. It was deliberate, a shadow watching, waiting. Together they moved towards the source, stepping carefully over roots and stones. As they drew near, a figure emerged, an old man, robes worn, eyes gleaming with knowledge and a faint smile. "Why do you wander these sacred hills?" the stranger asked, voice gravelly but kind. Sile stepped forward. "We seek joy. Meaning beyond this world's noise." The man's eyes twinkled. "Then you are on the right path, though not the one you expect. Joy grows in roots and stories, in laughter and tears alike." Taasi exchanged a glance with Sile. "Will you teach us?" The old man nodded slowly. "Perhaps. But first you must face what you truly fear." Later, as the sun dipped behind the peaks, Sile and Taasi sat by a fire, the stranger's words echoing in their minds. Sile broke the silence. "What if joy is not a destination but a journey shared?" Taasi smiled, warmth spreading through the chill night. "Then this journey just became less lonely." But beneath their growing bond, the forest whispered secrets, and a shadow lurked, watching their every step. The fire crackled between them, casting flickering shadows on their faces. Taasi pulled her knees closer, the warmth seeping through the chill of the mountain evening. Sile looked into the flames, thinking of the stranger's cryptic warning. "Face what you truly fear," he muttered. What could that mean? Taasi's eyes searched his. "Maybe it's not about the outside world, but ourselves. What if joy can only come after we confront the parts of us we avoid?" Sile nodded slowly. "I've spent years here meditating to find peace, but perhaps I've only been running from loneliness, failure, and loss." Her voice softened. "You don't have to carry that alone." A flicker of something vulnerable crossed Sale's face before he masked it with a gentle smile. "And you? What fears brought you here?" Taasi hesitated. In the city everything was controlled, perfect. But it was empty. I felt like a ghost watching life from behind glass. My parents want me to return to live normally, but I needed to find something real. Something that made my heart beat. She looked down and back at him. "Sometimes I'm afraid I won't find it, that I've made a mistake leaving everything behind." Sile reached out, tentatively brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear. "We find meaning in moments, in each other. Maybe that's enough to start." Her breath caught and she looked away, cheeks tinged with a soft blush. Before either could speak again, a distant howl shattered the night's quiet. Sale's eyes snapped open. "That's no ordinary animal," he said, standing swiftly. "We're not alone up here. Something follows us." Taasi's heart raced. "What do we do?" Sile grabbed a sturdy branch. "We find the stranger. If anyone can help, it's him." They moved through the dark forest, the howls growing louder, closer. Shadows shifted among the trees, and the hair on Taasi's arms stood on end. Suddenly, a figure darted between the trunks, disappearing into the undergrowth. Sile paused, listening. "Whoever that is, they know we're here." Taasi whispered, "Are they friend or foe?" Before Sile could answer, the stranger from before appeared at the edge of the clearing. "You walk a dangerous path," he said gravely. "The forest tests those who seek its secrets." Sile tightened his grip on the branch. "What do you mean?" "The shadows are not mere beasts, they are doubts and fears given form. If you cannot overcome them, they will consume you." Taasi swallowed hard, gripping Sale's arm. "How do we fight something inside ourselves?" The stranger smiled faintly. "With courage and trust." Over the following days, Sile and Taasi trained under the stranger's guidance, learning to listen to the forest's whispers and their own hearts. One morning, as the sun spilled golden light over the peaks, Taasi laughed for the first time in weeks, twirling beneath a canopy of blossoming trees. "Look at me," she said, breathless with joy. "I'm dancing with the wind." Sile watched, mesmerized. "You remind me what joy looks like." Their hands brushed, lingering longer than before. The connection between them deepened, unspoken yet undeniable. But the peace was fragile. One evening, while gathering herbs near a stream, Taasi stumbled upon a worn leather pouch half buried in the mud. Inside, faded letters spoke of a hidden truth, a secret about the village she'd come from, one that threatened to change everything she believed. Sile joined her, reading over her shoulder. This isn't just a journey to find joy. There's something more, something we must uncover. Taasi's eyes shone with determination. Whatever it is, we face it together. The mountains held their breath as two souls intertwined in love and mystery, preparing to challenge the shadows that lay ahead. The parchment in Taasi's hand trembled as she reread the last lines. The ink was faded but legible. The village was not abandoned. It was silenced. Those who remembered were forced to forget. If you found this, you are meant to remember. A symbol was sketched at the bottom, a swirl of concentric circles surrounding a simple flame. Sayal traced it with his thumb. I've seen this? On one of the stones near the ridge above the valley. Taasi looked up sharply. Then it's not just a ruin, it's a message. Sayal nodded. A beginning, or maybe a warning. That night sleep came uneasily. Taasi dreamt of firelight and chanting, of a temple swallowed by vines. A child's voice called her name, no, not her name, but a name that sounded like hers. Tasia. She woke at dawn with the name still on her lips. By midday they had reached the ridge. The climb was steep, the path half lost to time. But at the top, beneath an overhang of rock and bramble, the symbol reappeared, carved deep into stone just as Sayal had said. Taasi reached out, fingers brushing it. The stone felt warm. A hum stirred beneath her skin. Something's here, she whispered. Sayal's expression darkened. We're not alone. Behind them, a voice called. You shouldn't have come here. They turned sharply. A man stood in the shadow of a tree, hood drawn, posture rigid. In his hand he held something metallic, a device. Not from these hills. From the world Taasi had left behind. She stepped forward cautiously. Who are you? He ignored her question. You've triggered a marker. They'll know where you are now. You were never meant to find this place. Sayal moved between them. We're not going back. The man's voice was clipped. They'll come for you. The order has already been issued. You've broken the containment perimeter. Taasi frowned. Containment? You're talking like this place is quarantined. It is, the man said. From memory. From truth. From joy. Taasi's eyes narrowed. Who sent you? He hesitated. And then, unexpectedly, lowered his hood. Taasi gasped. I know you, she breathed. You were in my father's lab. Years ago. The man, older now, wearied by time, nodded. I was part of the original protocol team. I helped design the forgetting. I didn't expect anyone to resist it. Sayal stepped closer, fists clenched. Why would anyone want to erase joy? The man's voice was quiet now. Because joy inspires rebellion. It reminds people they're alive. The systems you left behind are built on control. Joy is the one thing they can't engineer. A silence fell between them. Taasi broke it. Then help us. Undo it. He looked torn. If I do, I become their enemy. You already are, Sayal said evenly. After a long pause, the man nodded once. There's an archive. Buried in the ruins. I'll lead you there. But you must be ready. Joy has a price. The descent into the valley felt different this time. As though the land itself was listening. Taasi and Sayal followed the stranger to a collapsed structure, its stones half swallowed by moss. He knelt by an overgrown alcove, and began to clear the debris. Beneath it a door rusted, hidden, waiting. Inside was not a tomb but a chamber. Shelves lined with old journals, fragments of art, worn instruments. The remnants of a life lived fully. Taasi walked slowly, running her fingers along a cracked violin case, a child's drawing pinned to the wall, a packet of seeds labeled Monsoon 47. Sayal lifted a journal and read aloud. We planted joy like grain. It grew when we sang to it. A tear rolled down Taasi's cheek. Do you see now? The man asked. They weren't just villagers. They were dreamers. Keepers of joy. And they were silenced. Sael looked at Taasi. Then we must replant it. And in that moment something unspoken passed between them, the promise of a life not yet lived. That night, as they sat by the fire once more, the sky above stretching wide and endless, Taasi leaned against Sael's shoulder. His arm wrapped around her instinctively. "Do you ever wonder," she murmured, "why we met? In this place? At this time?" Sael's voice was low. "No. I know. We were meant to find each other." She turned, searching his face. "Even if the world we knew turns against us?" He didn't hesitate. "Then we build a new one." Their lips met, not rushed, not desperate, but like two halves returning to something ancient and whole. The kiss was soft, certain. The kind of kiss that rewrote the story. And far above, on a ridge lit faintly by moonlight, a blinking drone silently retreated, transmitting everything it had seen. Chapter 3: Shadows in the Sky. The drone's soft hum had faded with the night, but a weight lingered in the air. Taasi sat on the stone threshold of the underground archive, arms wrapped around her knees, staring across the valley. The sunrise brought no warmth today, only sharper shadows. Sael emerged quietly from the chamber behind her, his steps measured and calm. "They saw everything," she said without turning. "That kiss. The archive. The flame symbol. It's all out now." Sael sat beside her. "We knew they'd find us eventually. But not this soon." A silence settled between them. "Do you regret coming here?" he asked. Taasi met his gaze, eyes tired but steady. "No. I just hate the thought that someone might erase it all again, everything we've found, everything we've become." "They can't erase what we carry," Sael said. "Not anymore." Suddenly, a soft electronic beep echoed from within the archive. Sael stood quickly and slipped back inside. Taasi followed. The stranger, the man from her father's lab, knelt beside an old device sputtering to life. A screen flickered with static before stabilizing into a map marked with circles, dates, and symbols spanning the valley and beyond. He looked up at them. This wasn't just one village. There were dozens, communities where emotion, art, music, even joy were archived and isolated. Taasi's breath caught. It was a system. He nodded. The Displacement Initiative. Designed to preserve the illusion of order by containing unpredictability. Joy, creativity, love, they were considered disruptors. Sael's eyes narrowed. "How do we break it?" The man hesitated. "There's a transmission tower, hidden in the Himalayas. One of the original signal points. It still broadcasts emotional suppressants, frequencies tuned to dampen deep feeling." Taasi frowned. "Is that possible?" He gave a humorless smile. "The body hears more than we think. Subsonic signals, neural cues. They don't erase feelings, they bury them." Sael stood beneath the skin of silence. The wind had softened by morning. The tower stood quiet, no longer pulsing with suppression, and for the first time since she had arrived in the mountains, Taasi felt something fragile blooming beneath her ribs. It wasn't adrenaline or urgency. It was quiet. And in that quiet, Sael sat beside her. The valley stretched out below, now dotted with the tents and makeshift shelters of those who had come, the ones who had felt something shift when the signal died. They were building fires, sharing food, laughing. Laughter. That strange, miraculous sound. Taasi closed her eyes. "You ever miss the numbness?" she asked quietly. Sael didn't answer at once. When he did, his voice was low. "I miss the predictability. When everything inside me was quiet and nothing mattered. But then." He turned to her. "Then I met you." Taasi opened her eyes. And now everything matters too much." A soft silence passed between them, not awkward but charged, as though the mountains themselves were listening. She smiled faintly. "I used to think love was just another construct. A chemical illusion. an echo from outdated biology. And now? She looked at him fully. Now I don't think at all when you're near me. Sael swallowed, visibly holding something back. Taasi. But she stopped him. Not with words. With her hand finding his. It was clumsy at first. After all, this wasn't a world trained in romance anymore. The program had dulled not just pain but passion. No stories. No courtship. No poetry. Only silence. But in that moment, under a wide sky and among people rediscovering what it meant to feel, they forged something that had been missing from the world for years. A small miracle. That night, they sat by the fire, wrapped in a rough blanket, watching the flames crackle against the dark. Others had gathered nearby, talking softly, singing old songs someone half remembered. A child was trying to play a flute fashioned from metal scraps. It made more squeaks than notes, but no one minded. Sael leaned closer. I thought I was prepared to die up here. Taasi looked at him, surprised. You never said that. I came to the Himalayas to find a way through the numbness. I meditated. I starved. I wandered. Nothing worked. I thought maybe if I let the cold take me, I'd feel something before it ended. He paused. Then you came. Like a storm. Or a story. And now I don't want to leave. Taasi looked away, blinking. You won't have to. Won't I? He asked, voice quiet. Pain's coming. And whatever she brings, it won't be peace. She didn't answer for a long time. Then she stood, dusting ash from her hands. Come with me. The room of forgotten sound. She led him back to the cabin, to a room they hadn't explored yet, a low chamber behind a false panel. Inside were relics from the early Taasi tests, a phonograph, shelves of sheet music, broken instruments, and a wall lined with journals. And in the center, a dusty old piano. Taasi ran her fingers across its keys. Out of tune. But still alive. She sat. She played. The melody was broken at first. Like memory stitched with trembling hands. But slowly the chords settled. A lullaby. A hymn. Something between worlds. Sael sat beside her, watching her hands move. How do you know this? I don't, she said softly. But my fingers do. When she finished, silence returned, but not empty. It was filled with breath and heartbeat, and something unspoken. He reached for her hand again. Taasi. She looked at him. And then he kissed her. Not desperately. Not perfectly. Just honestly. Like someone learning how to feel. Dawn after the music. The next morning, light broke over the peaks like a secret being shared. The fire outside had burned low, but the warmth lingered. People stirred slowly, eyes softer than before. Taasi and Sael stood on the roof of the cabin, arms around each other. She rested her head against his shoulder. I feel like a character in a forgotten song, she whispered. You are, he said. She smiled. And what about you? He looked at the sunrise. I'm the man who followed the wrong road to find the right person. But peace never lasts long. From the edge of the valley, a figure stood. Wrapped in black. Hair tied in a braid. Elira Vane had arrived. Behind her, a sleek drone descended soundlessly, scanning the camp. Her eyes took in the tents, the fire pits, the children laughing. She didn't blink. Then her gaze lifted straight to the cabin. Straight to them. Elira Vane stepped forward. Her boots crushed frost and leaf alike, unbothered by the uneven terrain. A drone hovered behind her, silent as a shadow. She didn't raise a weapon. She didn't need to. People fell quiet as she walked into the center of the encampment. Her presence, composed, machine-like, spread unease through the crowd like a ripple in still water. Sael stepped onto the ground from the cabin's stairway. Taasi followed. They walked toward her together. You've come, Sael said, voice even. I always do, Elira replied. I clean up the messes made by idealists. Taasi stepped forward. These people aren't a mess. They're a beginning. Elira surveyed the faces around her, curiosity, fear, anger. She seemed unmoved. Do you even understand what you've broken? She asked. Taasi wasn't just control. It was balance. The wave prevented wars. Collapsed criminal networks. Starved out extremism. At what cost? Taasi replied. Love, laughter, grief, beauty, you buried everything human under that wave. Elira's eyes flicked to Sayal. And you? Still chasing clarity through sentiment. I found something better, he said. I found her. The faintest flicker passed across Elira's face. Not recognition, more like memory surfacing for a moment before being crushed again. I warned you, Taasi, she said. You were built to feel too deeply. That's why you were rejected as a subject. You can't be controlled. You burn everything you touch. Taasi didn't flinch. Then maybe it's time the world burned. A murmur ran through the crowd. Elira raised a hand. The drone behind her powered up, a low hum of charged energy. Panic stirred. A few people backed away. You'll scare them back into silence, Sayal said. Elira turned her gaze on him. Silence is preferable to chaos. Taasi stepped closer, her voice louder now. Let them choose. Then, without waiting, she turned to the crowd. You felt something when the signal fell. That's why you came. Not because you were told. Not because you were ordered. But because something moved inside you. That was real. The drone hummed louder. Taasi kept speaking. You don't have to fight. But you have to choose. Because she will not stop. Not until the world is numb again. The people looked at each other. And then someone stepped forward. A woman, wrapped in a tattered shawl. Her voice was thin but steady. I lost my son 2 years ago. Didn't feel a thing. Couldn't cry. Couldn't scream. Just empty. Last night, I sang a song I used to sing to him. And I wept. I want that. I want to feel, even if it hurts. Then a boy spoke up. I dreamt for the first time. A real dream. And another voice. I remembered my mother's laugh. And another. I touched the earth and felt it breathe. Elira's face hardened. She lifted a hand, preparing to signal the drone. But Sayal was faster. He threw a stone hard, not at Elira but at the drone's scanner. The device jerked midair, and its trajectory shifted. It shot a pulse into the trees instead, frying a pine clean through. Screams echoed. Sayal ran forward. Elira reached for a hidden control at her belt, but Taasi was already there, knocking it away. The two women locked eyes. You can't stop it, Elira hissed. The system will correct itself. It always does. No, Taasi said. This time it rewrites. And she brought her fist down hard on the device, crushing it against the rock beneath her. The drone dropped instantly, lifeless. Elira stared at her ruined console. For the first time, uncertainty crept into her voice. You don't know what you've started. I know exactly what I've started, Taasi replied. A world that remembers how to feel. The walk away. Elira didn't fight. She simply turned and walked back the way she'd come, vanishing into the trees, leaving the crowd stunned and the air buzzing with adrenaline. Sayal reached for Taasi's hand. You were incredible, he said, breathless. She looked at him. No. We were. And for the second time in 2 days their lips met, not out of fear or desperation but something larger. Hope. Chapter 5 Echoes Behind the Code. Taasi sat beneath the giant oak, the cool shade a sharp contrast to the heated tension of the confrontation. The valley around her buzzed with newfound hope, but inside a storm of memories swirled, refusing to settle. Her eyes closed. The gentle rustle of leaves turned into whispers, fragments of a life she thought she had left behind. Flashback: the lab. The sterile white walls stretched endlessly. Tubes and wires curled like vines from Taasi's wrists and temples. Screens blinked data, heart rate, brain waves, emotional responses. Subject 17 TAASI, the voice came cold and clinical. A technician, face unreadable beneath a mask, hovered over her bed. Emotional response test initiated. Please recall the memory assigned. Taasi's mind was flooded with images, faces she didn't recognize, places she'd never been, sensations both alien and achingly familiar. Focus on the feeling of joy, the voice ordered. Taasi tried. But joy was a stranger here, measured, forced, synthetic. The machine hummed, searching, probing, but the senses showed only faint signals. The technician frowned. Emotions below threshold. Increased stimulus. Lights flashed, voices surged. Pain. Fear. Despair. But joy. No. Back to present. Taasi opened her eyes, heart pounding. How could they not see, she murmured. Joy isn't a switch. It's a thread, tangled, fragile but real. Sael approached quietly. Your memories, he said softly. They haunt you. She nodded. I wasn't just a test subject. I was a prototype, the first AI hybrid made to feel, to live. But the project failed. They said I was too volatile. And that's why you escaped? No. I wasn't meant to escape. I was meant to be reset. But I found a way. I ran, not just from the lab but from a life that wanted to control me. Sael sat beside her. You're more human than anyone I know. Taasi smiled faintly, eyes distant. But the price of that humanity was exile. New revelation. Her comm device beeped softly, a message encrypted, unfamiliar. Taasi opened it. The words froze her blood. You are not the only one. The source is deeper. Meet me where the river divides. She looked up, meeting Sael's questioning gaze. This is just the beginning, she said. Taasi folded the message carefully and slipped it into her pocket. The cryptic note was not just a clue, it was a call, a beckoning towards something bigger than herself. She looked at Sael, eyes steady but softening. All this time I've been running from the past, from who I was programmed to be. But maybe the answer isn't to erase it, but to learn from it. Sael nodded. Joy isn't a data point, is it? It's something you feel, messy, unpredictable. She laughed, a sound rusty from disuse. Exactly. Joy is in the dirt on your hands when you plant a seed. It's in laughter that spills over, imperfect and raw. The ruins around them, once symbols of loss, now seem to hum with a quiet promise. Maybe this is what I've been missing, she said. Not just in me, but in the world we've forgotten. We need to live the small things again, touch, taste, smell. Sael smiled warmly, to feel alive. Taasi stood, determination blooming. It's time to build that place. A sanctuary, where joy isn't programmed but grown. Sael glanced at her, a flicker of admiration in his eyes. Will you let me help? Taasi hesitated, then nodded. I don't want to do this alone anymore. They turned toward the horizon, where the sun cast golden light over the valley, a new day, a new chance. Together, they would rediscover what it truly meant to be alive. Taasi folded the cryptic note carefully and slipped it into her pocket, her fingers trembling slightly. The message was more than a clue. It was a summons to face not only the world outside but the world inside her. She gazed at Sael, who sat quietly beside her, the soft breeze catching his hair. His calm presence was a balm to the turmoil stirring within her. For years she had been lost in a labyrinth of algorithms and artificial rhythms, a life so smooth and efficient that it left no room for the unpredictable heartbeats of joy. All this time I've been running, Taasi confessed, voice low but steady. Running from the past, from what I was told to be, from the parts of myself I didn't understand. But maybe the answer isn't to erase those parts but to accept them, to learn from them. Sael nodded slowly, his eyes reflecting the fading light of the sun. Joy isn't a simple calculation. It's chaotic and messy, like a wildfire or the sudden bloom of a wildflower. You can't control it, only surrender to it. Taasi smiled faintly. That's the problem, isn't it? Our world's been designed to control everything, every move, every feeling. But joy thrives in the unplanned moments, the imperfections. It's in the dirt on your hands when you plant a seed, the unpolished laughter that bursts from deep inside, the quiet moments of silence that speak louder than words. She looked out at the ruins that surrounded them, crumbling walls, weathered stones, shadows of a forgotten past. What once symbolized loss now felt like the soil from which new life could sprout. Maybe that's what I've been missing, she whispered. Not just inside me but in the world. The simple things we stopped noticing. The touch of the earth, the warmth of the sun on your face, the sound of wind through leaves. Life stripped down to its raw, imperfect beauty. Sale's smile was gentle, his hand brushing lightly against hers. To feel alive, truly alive. Not as data, not as a function, but as a pulse that can't be measured. For a moment silence stretched between them, filled only by the distant calls of birds settling in for night. Taasi's gaze grew distant, her thoughts drifting back to memories half forgotten. The sterile glowing rooms of her childhood home where every move was tracked. The conversations she'd had with machines instead of people. The emptiness that no amount of convenience could fill. What scares me, she said slowly, is not just the emptiness itself but the fear that I won't know how to find joy again. That maybe it's lost to us forever. Sale tightened his grip on her hand. It's buried, not lost. And we're the ones who'll dig it up. Together. She drew a deep breath, the crisp mountain air filling her lungs. It's time, she said, her voice resolute, to build a place where joy isn't programmed or dictated but grown. A sanctuary where people can rediscover the messy, beautiful chaos of life. Sale's eyes shone with quiet admiration. Will you let me be part of that? Taasi hesitated, then nodded, a warmth blossoming in her chest. I don't want to do this alone anymore. They stood together, the sun casting a golden glow over the valley, a promise of new beginnings. As shadows lengthened and stars began to peek through the deepening dusk, the two souls found a fragile hope in the unspoken truth, that joy, like life itself, was a journey to be rediscovered step by step, hand in hand. Chapter 6: Trials of the Heart and Spirit. As the days unfolded in the quiet mountain valley, Taasi and Sale began sketching out plans to create their haven, a place where joy was cultivated rather than programmed. Yet, even in this serene setting, challenges emerged that would test the very core of their resolve. The first visitor came unexpectedly. A man named Vikram, sharp-eyed and skeptical, arrived from a nearby town. He was a local businessman, intent on buying land for a lucrative resort development. He saw no value in Taasi and Sale's vision. You're chasing a dream that's already dead, Vikram said bluntly during their first meeting. People want comfort, not discomfort. They don't have time for your messy chaos. They want efficiency, control, certainty. Taasi felt a flicker of doubt, but refused to let it dim her spirit. Maybe that's why people are unhappy, Vikram. Because they've forgotten how to live without control. Sale stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. Joy isn't a commodity to be sold. It's something we must grow from within. You may not understand now, but this place will be a sanctuary, not for profit but for the soul. Vikram sneered. Idealism is a luxury few can afford. Watch yourselves before this sanctuary becomes a ghost town. He left with a final warning, but his words echoed in their minds, a reminder that not everyone would welcome their mission. Then came Atika, a woman from Sale's past. She had been his closest friend, almost a lover, before his long years of meditation. Atika was pragmatic, ambitious, and fiercely protective of Sale's future, but she saw Taasi as a threat. You're asking him to throw away everything he's worked for, Atika said one evening as shadows flickered from the campfire. Years of discipline, silence, sacrifice, gone for what? A naive dream. Taasi met Atika's gaze steadily. We're not throwing away anything. We're reclaiming what was lost, what he was searching for in the first place. Sale's eyes shifted between them, caught in the tension. I've been searching for meaning, Atika. Maybe this is the path. Atika's voice cracked slightly. And what if this path destroys you both? What if joy is a risk we can't afford? That night Taasi lay awake, the firelight casting restless shadows. Doubt gnawed at her, but Sale's quiet presence beside her was a steady anchor. If joy means risking everything, she thought, then it's a risk worth taking. Yet the tests didn't end there. A mysterious stranger arrived one morning, a wanderer named Arjun who claimed to have once followed a similar path but lost faith along the way. His bitterness was sharp, his words cutting through their optimism. Joy is a mirage, Arjun said with a harsh laugh. You chase it, and it slips further away. The world is ruled by pain, disappointment, and loss. Better to face that truth than live in illusions. Sale listened carefully, unshaken. Pain and joy are threads of the same cloth. To know one, we must embrace the other. Taasi added softly, our journey isn't about illusions. It's about truth, finding beauty in imperfection. Arjun's eyes softened for a moment, but he remained wary. If you survive this place, maybe you'll find what I couldn't. Together, these confrontations forced Taasi and Sale to look deeper, not just at their vision, but at themselves. Were they prepared to face cynicism, fear, and heartbreak? Could their bond withstand the strain? Underneath the vast, indifferent sky, they made silent promises to each other and to the future they dared to build. As dawn spilled soft light over the valley, Taasi sat beneath the ancient oak tree, her mind swirling with memories and questions. The echoes of the confrontation with Atika and Vikram still haunted her, but what unsettled her most was the growing tempest inside. What is joy truly? She whispered to the wind, brushing her fingers over the rough bark. Is it only found in laughter and lightness, or does it lie also in the quiet sorrow and struggle? Sale approached quietly, his footsteps muffled by the grass. He sat beside her, a calm presence against her restless thoughts. I've often believed joy was something to be captured, he said softly. But I'm beginning to see it's more like the river we crossed, the flow that changes shape but never truly stops. Taasi looked at him, searching for certainty she didn't yet have. Do you ever fear, she asked, that what we're trying to build might be nothing more than a dream? That the world outside will always be too harsh? Sale nodded, his gaze steady. I do. Every day. But maybe that fear is the price we pay for hope. Their journey had stripped them of many illusions. The perfect picture of joy they'd envisioned gave way to the messy reality of pain, disappointment, and doubt. Yet in that vulnerability, they discovered a fragile strength. Atika's bitterness and Vikram's cynicism were mirrors reflecting parts of themselves they had tried to hide. Sale's long years of solitary meditation had left him yearning for connection, while Taasi's vision sometimes felt like an impossible beacon in the dark. That evening by the fire, Taasi confessed, I've spent so long running from the emptiness of a future without joy, from the ghosts of my past. Here, I thought I'd find answers, but sometimes I only find more questions. Sale reached for her hand. Questions are the soil where growth begins. Their shared moments of doubt became the glue holding them together. They spoke of imperfections, not as failures but as vital parts of the human experience. In the quiet that followed, Taasi saw Sale not just as a guide or companion, but as someone walking his own path through the unknown. We will meet more challenges, he said later, but we face them not alone but together. That is where our strength lies. As night deepened, the stars above seemed to pulse with silent encouragement. Taasi closed her eyes, allowing the peace to seep in, knowing the journey inward was just as vital as the one ahead. Finding strength in the broken lotus. As the fire's warmth flickered softly across their faces, Taasi's gaze drifted to the pond nearby, where a lone lotus floated gently on the water's surface. The flower's petals were torn and uneven, worn by the elements, yet it remained defiantly beautiful in the moonlight. Sale noticed her stare and followed her eyes. "That lotus," he said quietly, "it's not perfect but it still blooms. It's like it's saying that even broken things can grow strong." Taasi felt a sudden pang deep inside. "I've been chasing perfection my whole life, in my work, my appearance, even my happiness. But maybe that's why joy always felt out of reach. Maybe I needed to learn that joy comes from embracing the cracks, not hiding them." Sayal reached over and took her hand gently. "I've been meditating here for years, trying to find peace through discipline and silence, but it was never enough. Meeting you, seeing how you smile despite everything, it's like you taught me that joy is in the mess, the imperfections, in simply being alive." They sat in silence, the broken lotus floating between them like a silent teacher. The motif took root in their minds, a symbol of resilience, acceptance, and rebirth. The next morning, as dawn spread a soft glow over the valley, Taasi and Sayal rose with renewed determination. Their journey wasn't just about building a sanctuary for others, it was about nurturing their own broken petals and allowing themselves to blossom despite the scars. Throughout the days that followed, whenever doubt or fear crept in, they would return to the pond and the image of the fractured lotus. It reminded them that joy wasn't a destination, but a delicate bloom nurtured by patience and courage. Even in moments of conflict, when old fears or the antagonist's threats tested their resolve, the lotus's quiet strength anchored them. They learned to find joy in the simple, imperfect moments: a shared smile, the roughness of soil under their hands, a song sung off-key around the fire. As their community began to grow, others too found solace in the broken lotus. It became a shared emblem, not of flawlessness but of hope and transformation. Taasi whispered one evening, "We don't have to be perfect. We just have to keep blooming." Sayal smiled, "And in that we find our joy." Chapter 7: Awakening the Lotus Within. The sanctuary was stirring with the gentle hum of dawn, the kind of dawn that felt like a new beginning rather than just the start of another day. Soft rays of light filtered through the dense canopy of ancient trees, dappling the ground with golden flecks. The air was cool, scented faintly with jasmine and damp earth, a fragrance that seemed to carry the weight of centuries. Taasi sat cross-legged by the lotus pond, her palms resting lightly on her knees. The water reflected the morning sky, broken here and there by lotus flowers, some in full bloom, others wilting, their petals drifting silently like small boats. It was a quiet scene, but beneath that calm surface, she felt a stirring in her heart, something awakening, delicate yet powerful. "Sayal," she called softly, her voice barely rising above the whisper of the breeze. From the meditation hall nearby, Sayal appeared. His footsteps were light on the stone path, eyes bright with the same quiet reverence that filled Taasi. He sat beside her, the space between them charged with an unspoken understanding. "I had a dream last night," Taasi said, turning her face toward him. Sai Baba was there. Under the banyan tree. He didn't just watch us, he spoke. Sayal leaned in, his brow furrowing slightly, curiosity flickering in his eyes. "What did he say?" Taasi took a deep breath, recalling the vivid images that clung to her mind from the dream. "He said that joy isn't found by controlling the world or chasing perfection. It's about surrendering. About letting life flow, embracing the imperfect and finding peace in the present moment." Sayal nodded slowly, his gaze drifting to the shimmering lotus. "That makes sense. We've been so focused on fixing everything, trying to build a perfect place. But maybe joy comes from accepting things as they are." As she spoke, a gentle wind rustled through the leaves, carrying with it a soft, almost melodic murmur, like a sacred chant barely audible but profoundly felt. Taasi closed her eyes, letting the moment wash over her. "Presence," she whispered. "That's the key." The morning gatherings. From that day forward, beneath the ancient banyan tree that dominated the sanctuary, Taasi and Sayal began inviting people to join them for daily gatherings. At first it was a small group, just a handful of the sanctuary residents. But word spread, carried by travelers, seekers, and those yearning for something beyond the artificial comforts of the world outside. Each morning as the sun rose, they met in silence. No sermons, no grand speeches, just the simple act of being together. They listened to the rustling leaves, the chirping of birds, the distant murmur of a flowing stream. They felt the earth beneath their feet, and the gentle caress of the breeze. Sael spoke quietly one morning. When we listen like this, we begin to hear the world's heartbeat. Taasi smiled, her eyes reflecting the sunlight filtering through the branches. And in that heartbeat, we find ourselves again. Enter Mira, the wandering sage. One afternoon, as golden light bathed the sanctuary, an elderly woman approached. Her robes were simple, but her eyes shone with a lifetime of wisdom. She introduced herself as Mira, a wandering sage who had heard whispers of the sanctuary's awakening. "I have been searching for a place like this," Mira said, her voice soft yet steady. "A place where people are learning to reconnect with joy, not through things but through being." Taasi and Sael welcomed her with open hearts. Mira became a guide, a gentle presence who challenged their understanding of joy and suffering. "Joy is not a goal," Mira said one evening as the group sat around a fire. "It is a seed planted deep within each soul. But that seed cannot grow without embracing our shadows, our fears, our failures, and our imperfections." Sael looked at Taasi, their fingers brushing lightly in the flickering firelight. "How do we teach that?" he asked quietly. Mira smiled. "By showing them it's okay to be broken. By embracing the lotus within, the flower that blooms even from the mud." The lotus as a symbol. The lotus flower quickly became a powerful symbol for the sanctuary. It represented the paradox of life, beauty born from darkness, perfection found through imperfection. Taasi began weaving the lotus into their teachings, encouraging the community to reflect on their own journeys. One morning, Taasi sat with a young woman named Anaya, who struggled with self-doubt. "Look at this lotus," Taasi said, holding a delicate flower. "It grows through mud and murky water. Your struggles are like the mud. Without them, you wouldn't bloom." Anaya's eyes filled with tears. "I've always thought my struggles made me weak." Taasi shook her head gently. "They make you human. And from that humanity comes true joy." A night of revelation. One night, as the sanctuary rested under a blanket of stars, Taasi awoke suddenly. A strange, luminous figure stood at the edge of the lotus pond. It was Sai Baba. His presence was both tangible and ethereal, his eyes full of compassion. "Joy cannot be taught," he said in a voice that echoed like a gentle bell. "It must be experienced. It is the dance between light and shadow, the acceptance of what is and the celebration of what could be." Taasi reached out, but the figure began to fade. "Wait," she whispered. "How do we help others find this dance?" Sai Baba smiled, the light around him brightening. "By being the light they seek. By living your truth. And remember, the journey is never alone." With that, he vanished, leaving a single lotus petal floating on the water's surface. The sanctuary transforms. The days that followed were filled with renewed purpose. The sanctuary's residents embraced the teachings, learning to celebrate joy in small moments, a shared meal, a song, a simple touch of kindness. Sael and Taasi's bond deepened as they worked side by side, their love growing from shared struggles and silent understanding. One evening, as they walked beneath the banyan tree, Sael took Taasi's hand. "Do you think we can really change the world?" he asked. Taasi smiled, squeezing his hand. "Maybe not the whole world. But we can change the world within these walls. And sometimes that's enough." The weight of doubt. As the days unfolded, Taasi found herself wrestling with a subtle yet persistent doubt. She sat one afternoon beneath the banyan tree, tracing patterns in the dirt with a stick, when Sael approached quietly. "You seem distant," he observed gently. Taasi looked up, eyes clouded. "Sometimes I wonder if we're fooling ourselves. If this place, this peace can really survive outside these walls." Sael sat beside her, their shoulders touching. "It's normal to doubt. The world out there is loud, impatient. It demands control and certainty. But isn't joy supposed to be certain?" Taasi whispered. Sael shook his head. "Joy isn't a constant state. It's fleeting. It comes and goes like the breeze. She sighed. I want to believe Sai Baba's message, that joy grows in surrender, but sometimes surrender feels like giving up. Sayal looked into her eyes. Surrender isn't giving up. It's trusting the flow. It's like the lotus, rooted in the mud, reaching for the light no matter what. Taasi let out a shaky breath. Maybe that's why the lotus is so perfect a symbol. It grows through hardship but blooms beautifully. The testing of resolve. That very evening, a visitor arrived. Atika, the woman from Taasi's past who once opposed her sanctuary's vision, appeared unexpectedly, her presence a gust of cold wind. I see you're still clinging to these naive ideals, Atika said, her voice sharp but tinged with something else, a complicated mixture of anger and concern. Taasi stood tall. It's not naive. It's necessary. Atika's eyes darkened. You can't build a sanctuary on dreams alone. The world doesn't work that way. Sayal stepped forward. We're not trying to change the world overnight. We're trying to change ourselves, and from there it spreads. Atika laughed bitterly. You think love and joy can fix what's broken? I've seen too much suffering to believe that. Taasi's throat tightened, but she met Atika's gaze steadily. Then stay and see. If you choose to. A night of tension and truth. That night tensions ran high. The fire around which the group gathered crackled under the stars, but Atika remained distant, her arms crossed. Taasi approached her quietly. Why are you here, really? Atika's facade cracked for a moment. Because part of me still hopes. I've spent years guarding my heart against disappointment, but watching you, it's hard not to feel drawn in. Taasi reached out, placing a hand gently on Atika's arm. Joy isn't a shield from pain. It's the courage to feel it fully. Atika's eyes glistened with unshed tears. I don't know if I'm strong enough. You are, Taasi said softly. We all are. That's why we're here, to find strength together. Sai Baba's teachings deepen. In the following days Sai Baba's presence felt stronger, more tangible. Taasi began receiving visions, fragments of conversations, stories from Sai Baba's life that illuminated the path to joy. One vision showed Sai Baba sitting among devotees speaking. Joy is not an escape from suffering but its companion. To embrace joy, one must first honor pain, not run from it. Inspired, Taasi shared these teachings during their gatherings. Joy and sorrow are two sides of the same coin, she told the group. One cannot exist without the other. When we accept this, we start to live more fully. A moment of connection. One afternoon Sayal found Taasi sitting by the lotus pond, tears quietly tracing down her cheeks. Why are you crying? He asked, sitting close. Because I feel everything so deeply, the joy, the pain, the uncertainty, she replied. Sayal took her hands in his. That depth is your gift. It means you're truly alive. She looked into his eyes, searching for reassurance. Do you think we can really help others find this? Sayal smiled warmly. We're not just helping others. We're healing ourselves. That's the real journey. Their foreheads touched gently, a silent promise passing between them. A new symbol, the flame. Sai Baba's teachings also brought a new symbol to the sanctuary, a small flame flickering softly in a bronze lamp beneath the banyan tree. Mira explained, the flame represents the light within each of us. No matter how dark the world seems, this light never dies. It needs only our attention to shine. Each day, as the community gathered, they lit the flame, symbolizing their commitment to nurturing their inner joy. An unexpected storm. Just as the sanctuary seemed to settle into a rhythm of peace, a fierce storm descended one night. The wind howled, trees bent, and rain battered the earth. The lotus pond overflowed, flooding parts of the sanctuary. Amid the chaos, Sayal and Taasi worked alongside everyone, securing shelter, rescuing supplies. After the storm passed, the community gathered, soaked but safe. It's a test, Mira said. Life will challenge your joy. But it is how you respond that defines you. Taasi looked at the drenched lotus flowers, some battered but still rooted. Even in the storm the lotus survives, she said. Seeds of hope. As the chapter closes, Taasi and Sael stand beneath the banyan tree, watching the sanctuary slowly recover. Taasi reflects inwardly, joy is fragile but resilient. It's a seed we must protect and nurture. Sael smiles, and together we'll make sure it blooms. Chapter 9: Shadows in the Light. The morning sun filtered softly through the dense canopy of the banyan tree where the group had gathered. After the unsettling confrontation with Mira, a heavy silence hung over them like a thick fog. Taasi closed her eyes, drawing in a slow, deliberate breath as the gentle breeze stirred the leaves overhead. "Let us begin with a moment of stillness," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Sai Baba taught us to seek peace in the storm." Sael nodded beside her, hands resting lightly on his knees. "It's easy to lose ourselves when the world pulls us apart," he added. "But here now we can find the center." One by one, the others settled into meditation. The soft rustle of the banyan's leaves seemed to pulse with a calming rhythm, as though the ancient tree itself were breathing with them. After several minutes, Taasi broke the silence. "We knew this path wouldn't be easy," she said, opening her eyes and looking around at the tired but determined faces. "Myra's opposition only shows how deeply threatened the old ways are by what we're trying to build." Atika's brows furrowed, her voice uncertain. "But what if we can't overcome it? She's powerful, she has resources, influence. The villagers are scared." Sael shifted closer to Taasi, their shoulders nearly touching. "Fear is natural. But we can't let it stop us. Remember why we started, to bring back joy. To remind people of what's missing in their lives." Taasi smiled softly. "And to find our own joy again." A pause settled between them. Sael hesitated before speaking. "Taasi, I've been meaning to tell you. I worry sometimes. About failing you. About losing this, us." Her heart fluttered. "I've been scared too. Scared that I'm leaving behind everything I know for something uncertain." He reached out, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "But you're here. We're here. Together." Atika cleared her throat, breaking their moment. "We need a plan. We can't just wait for things to get worse." Taasi nodded. "Tomorrow, we begin visiting the surrounding villages again. We'll share what we've learned, growing food, talking to trees, embracing imperfection. But we must do it gently. The people are frightened and caught between old fears and new hopes." The group dispersed to prepare, but the tension lingered. Over the next week the team worked tirelessly, knocking on doors, gathering small groups beneath shady trees, and demonstrating the beauty of simple living. They showed villagers how to tend to small kitchen gardens, shared stories of connection and joy, and invited them to join in music and dance. But Myra's shadow loomed large. Whispered warnings followed them. Supplies were mysteriously delayed. Some villagers openly refused to listen, swayed by Myra's promises of development and security. One evening, Atika sat by the fire, her face drawn with worry. Taasi sat beside her. "You seem troubled." "I don't know if we can do this," Atika admitted. "Maybe the world is too far gone. Maybe we're just chasing ghosts." Taasi took her hand. "It's in these moments we have to remember what Sai Baba taught us, to find joy in the journey, not just the destination." Atika looked up. "How do you do that? When everything feels like it's falling apart?" Taasi smiled gently. "By planting seeds. Sometimes literally." She pointed toward the banyan tree, where a small sapling was planted. "This tree is a symbol for us. Deep roots reaching wide, sheltering all beneath it. It reminds me that balance isn't about control, it's about acceptance. Imperfections, struggle and growth all part of the same dance." Sael joined them, his eyes bright. "We're stronger than we know. And together we can find the light in the darkness." Days later, As the group gathered near the banyan tree for their evening ritual, a figure approached through the fading light. It was Mira. The air stiffened. Taasi stepped forward cautiously. Mira, why are you here? Mira's gaze was unreadable. I came to talk, not to fight. Sael exchanged a wary glance with Taasi. What do you want? Mira's voice softened, almost fragile. You think I'm your enemy. But I'm trapped too, caught between the old and the new just like you. Taasi frowned. If you understand, why oppose us so fiercely? Because I don't know any other way. Because change terrifies me, Mira admitted, her eyes glistening with unspoken pain. But your faith, your connection to Sai Baba, it reminds me of something I lost long ago. Sael stepped closer. Maybe we're not so different after all. The tension slowly dissolved as Mira spoke of her past, a childhood spent under Sai Baba's teachings, a love lost to bitterness and fear, and a desire for redemption she didn't know how to grasp. Taasi felt her own heart stir, sensing that beneath the antagonism lay a soul as lost and yearning as their own. That night, under the banyan tree, Taasi and Sael shared a quiet moment. You were right, Taasi whispered. Our journey is about healing ourselves as much as healing the world. Sael smiled, brushing her hair behind her ear. And joy is the bridge between us. The stars blinked overhead, silent witnesses to a fragile hope blossoming in the balance between shadow and light. The next morning, a mist hung low over the valley, as Taasi and Sael gathered with the others beneath the sprawling banyan tree. The air was thick with anticipation, but also a fragile hope that the night's revelations might turn the tide. Mira arrived quietly, her steps hesitant yet determined. She looked different somehow, softer, less guarded. The usual fire in her eyes was tempered by something that resembled regret. Taasi stepped forward, offering a tentative smile. Thank you for coming. Mira nodded, barely meeting her gaze. I'm not sure where this will lead, but I want to understand. Atika exchanged a surprised look with Sael. We can't afford another betrayal. How do we know you won't try to undermine us again? Mira's eyes darkened. I don't expect your trust yet. But I've seen what fear and control have done to this place. And maybe it's time to try something different. The group sat in a circle, the morning sun casting long shadows as Mira slowly shared details about her past, a childhood overshadowed by expectations, her rise to power through ruthless means, and the loneliness that followed. I thought controlling everything would keep me safe, she confessed, voice barely above a whisper. But it only built walls between me and the people, and between me and myself. Sael reached out, resting a hand over hers. We all build walls, but it takes courage to tear them down. Taasi watched the exchange, her heart swelling with cautious optimism. The journey to restore joy had gained a new, unexpected ally. As the days passed, Mira began to participate in their efforts, helping to ease villagers' fears and encouraging dialogue between opposing factions. Her presence was a reminder that change was never linear, and redemption was a path walked step by step. One evening, as the group gathered to celebrate the blossoming community, Sael pulled Taasi aside beneath the banyan tree. Look at what we're building, he said, his voice filled with awe. Taasi smiled, her eyes shining. It's more than I ever imagined. He took her hands in his. Whatever comes next, we face it together. A cool breeze rustled the leaves above them, carrying with it a faint familiar fragrance, a whisper of Sai Baba's blessings guiding them onward through shadow and light. Chapter 10: The Seed of New Beginnings. The first light of dawn filtered softly through the ancient banyan tree's dense canopy, scattering golden flecks on the ground. The village was waking slowly, birds chirped, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves, and the scent of damp earth mingled with blooming wildflowers. Inside the communal hall, Taasi sat cross-legged in meditation, her hands resting lightly on her knees, breathing measured and calm. Sael was beside her, equally still, eyes closed, yet his mind raced with unspoken thoughts. Despite the tranquility, the world outside was never quiet. Life always demanded attention. Have you noticed how even when we sit still, our minds refuse to stop? Sayal whispered as he opened his eyes, watching the amber sunlight dance across the walls. Taasi smiled softly, eyes still closed. That's why we need moments like this. To remind ourselves there's more than the noise, more than the constant drive for perfection or control. We need to remember who we really are beneath it all. Their lives here were a far cry from the sleek, sterile future city they had left behind, a place where artificial intelligence managed every detail of existence and humans lived in comfort, but with a creeping emptiness. A world of flawless machines and digital interactions, yet no real connection. Taasi recalled a memory from those days, the way people would sit in cafes, faces glowing with screen light, eyes never meeting, laughter generated by an app but never truly felt. It was a society running on efficiency, but missing the essence of living. That was what had driven her here, to find the spark of joy, something real and raw. Outside the hall, Myra's voice rang out, lively and full of purpose. She had been organizing groups to tend to the small fields they had reclaimed, teaching the art of nurturing food, just as their ancestors once had. Atika led the children in, singing ancient folk songs, their voices rising in innocent harmony. Life was simpler here, but it was not without hardship. The recent storm had tested their resilience. The swollen river threatened to wash away the fragile progress they had made. Rain pummeled their homes, panic surged through the community. Yet together they had worked to reinforce the riverbanks, save the crops, and soothe frightened children. Taasi often pondered on that night. How fear had sharpened their resolve but also deepened their bonds. Joy, she told Sayal once, isn't found in comfort alone. It's the courage to face uncertainty and still find meaning. The day's peace was interrupted by a sharp knock at the door. Mira entered, her usual brightness tempered by concern. There's news, she said. Visitors from the city, investors. They want to see what we've built here. Taasi's brow furrowed. Investors. That could mean money but also rules, restrictions, control. Sayal clenched his fist quietly. We can't let them commercialize this place. Not again. Mira nodded. I'll meet them. But we have to be cautious. If we don't set the terms, they will. In the days that followed, the visitors arrived. Sleek suits and polished shoes, eyes scanning the rustic surroundings with a mixture of curiosity and calculation. We see tremendous potential, one began. With the right investment you could expand. Bring in technology, improve infrastructure. Taasi's voice rang out steady and clear. This is not a business venture. This is a community rediscovering joy, connection, and respect for nature. Our values must come first. The room grew tense. One investor leaned forward. Growth means more people, more profit. You can't stay isolated forever. Sayal replied calmly, growth yes. But not at the expense of our soul. Hours passed in negotiations. Eventually, an agreement was reached, one honoring the community's principles, while allowing modest, sustainable support. That evening, beneath the sprawling banyan tree, Taasi sighed. We crossed a line today, she said. But it felt like a step forward. Mira smiled faintly. We're becoming guardians, not rulers. Sayal's gaze lifted to the stars. Together. The stars above seemed to shimmer in silent approval, as if Sai Baba himself was watching. Futuristic echoes of ancient wisdom. As the night deepened, Taasi's thoughts wandered to the wisdom of ancient India, a civilization that had long balanced the spiritual with the practical, the cosmic with the mundane. She recalled the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna advises Arjuna to act without attachment to outcomes, a concept that resonated deeply with their journey. In a future ruled by AI algorithms predicting every outcome, this ancient lesson held new power, to act with heart, to embrace uncertainty. Sai Baba's own teachings echoed through her mind, the idea that true joy comes not from external riches but from seva, selfless service, and from seeing the divine in all beings. Even in this era of technology, she had once mused aloud to Sayal, the essence of life remains unchanged. It's about presence, connection and surrender. Sael had nodded. Our ancestors knew how to live fully, talking to trees, dancing with the wind, hearing music in the silence. We're relearning those languages. In the future city, machines could simulate every experience, taste, sight, sound, but not the soul behind them. The village, with its imperfect homes, muddy paths and sun-warmed soil, was where life's true music played. Taasi imagined the ancient rishis meditating beneath banyan trees, listening to the hum of the universe, just as she did now. She picked up a small seedling nearby and held it in her palm. "This seed carries more than life," she said quietly. "It carries hope." The next morning, Taasi gathered with the village elders, Mira, Sael, and Atika, to discuss the future. "We must remember why we started," Taasi began. "This isn't just about survival or comfort. It's about joy, the joy of being, of creating, of belonging." Atika smiled. "It's like what Sai Baba said, love all, serve all. Joy grows from love." One elder nodded. "The city's promises tempt us, but they do not understand our heart." Sael added, "Technology can help, but it must serve the spirit, not replace it." Mira looked around. "We will teach others that joy is found not in perfection but in embracing our imperfections, the crooked tree, the cracked pot, the stammered song." Taasi felt a swell of hope. They were building more than a community. They were restoring a way of being, a forgotten language between humans and the world. The seed of new beginnings was planted deep, watered by the wisdom of ages and the courage of those daring to choose joy over convenience. The journey ahead was long, uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Taasi felt the quiet thrill of life, raw, imperfect and beautifully alive. The days that followed were filled with quiet determination. Each morning the village stirred with fresh energy, the air alive with birdsong and laughter. The simple act of planting seeds became a ritual of hope. Taasi often found herself kneeling in the earth, feeling its cool richness seep into her fingers, a tactile reminder of life's ongoing miracle. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows, Sael sat beside her beneath the banyan tree. "Taasi," he began, voice low but firm, "do you ever wonder if we're fighting an impossible battle? The world outside moves so fast, it's almost impossible to slow down enough to breathe." She looked at him, the fading light catching the earnestness in his eyes. "Sometimes. But if not us, then who? If not now, when? The world has forgotten how to be still. We can't give up because it's hard." He nodded, his hand brushing hers. "You're right. But it's more than just stillness, isn't it? It's about finding the joy inside the stillness." Taasi smiled softly. "Exactly. It's the difference between existing and truly living." Atika approached, her youthful face radiant with excitement. "I've been teaching the children the old songs again. The ones about the rivers and mountains, about the stars and the sky. They listen with wide eyes, like they're hearing magic for the first time." Mira added, "It's more than songs. It's stories, the soul of a people. And through stories, joy is remembered." Later that evening, around a crackling fire, the group gathered, voices blending in chant and laughter. Taasi felt the circle of warmth close around them like a shield against the outside world's harshness. She thought of Sai Baba's words, simple yet profound, "Why fear when God is near? Do you think He really watches over us?" Sael asked quietly as the flames flickered. "I do," Taasi replied. "Not as a ghost or legend, but as a presence in every breath, every leaf, every heartbeat. His spirit guides us to what's real." The firelight danced in their eyes, reflecting a shared truth. The journey was less about reaching a destination and more about rediscovering the sacred in everyday life. A glimpse into the future and the past. Taasi's mind wandered to the contrast between their current world and the ancient wisdom they sought to revive. She imagined the future cities, sleek towers gleaming under neon skies, where AI governed every interaction. People rarely met face to face. Conversations were replaced by data streams. "Machines can simulate touch, but they cannot feel it," she mused aloud. "They can replicate sound, but not the soul behind the song." Sael nodded in agreement. Ancient India understood that joy isn't just sensory pleasure. It's a dance of the body, mind and spirit. It's surrender, devotion, and acceptance. Taasi recalled the Upanishads, mystical texts that spoke of Atman, the inner self, and Brahman, the universal spirit. She realized their community was practicing those truths, whether consciously or not. In every shared meal, every story told by firelight, they touched the eternal. Technology will always advance, Sayal said one evening. But if it disconnects us from ourselves and each other, what's the point? Taasi smiled, feeling the truth settle between them. The point is to balance the two, use technology without losing touch with the soul. Confronting doubt. Yet not all was calm in their hearts. One morning, Atika confessed her fears. What if we fail? She asked, eyes shimmering. What if the city comes again, and this time we can't stop it? Meera took her hand gently. Then we will rise again. Every time joy fades, it must be reborn, like the lotus blooming from the mud. Taasi added, failure is not the end. It's part of the dance. And remember, joy is not perfection. It's embracing the struggle. Sayal looked at the horizon, voice steady. We are more than individuals. We are a community. And that is our strength. A new dawn. Weeks passed and the village thrived, a sanctuary where ancient wisdom and modern hope intertwined. The seed they had planted was growing, not just in the earth but in their hearts. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and purple, Taasi stood on a hill overlooking the valley. Sayal joined her, the two silhouettes framed by the vast sky. Look at what we've built, Sayal said softly. More than buildings, Taasi replied. We've built a home, for joy, for connection, for life. They stood in silence, the gentle breeze carrying the promise of tomorrow. The journey was far from over, but for the first time they felt ready, not just to survive but to live fully. Chapter 11: The Festival of Light and Shadows. The village awoke to an unusual buzz of excitement. Taasi and Sayal had decided to mark the turning point of their journey with a festival of light and shadows, a celebration symbolizing the balance between joy and struggle, the visible and the unseen, the known and the mysterious. The festival is about embracing both, Taasi explained as she helped decorate the square. Light for joy and hope, shadows for the challenges and doubts that shape us. Sayal arranged earthen lamps along the pathways, their flickering flames promising warmth amid the approaching dusk. The children gathered eagerly, their faces lit by anticipation. As evening fell, the village transformed. Lanterns floated gently in the air, casting a soft glow that danced on the faces of the gathered community. Sayal stood beside Taasi, sensing a new kind of energy, a quiet strength born of shared purpose. Just then, a figure emerged from the shadows near the old banyan tree. It was Atika, her expression serious. There's something you both need to see, she said, eyes scanning the crowd nervously. Taasi raised an eyebrow. What is it? Atika led them to the edge of the village, where a faint rhythmic tapping sound echoed from beneath a pile of rubble, remnants of the ancient village's old well. Sayal crouched down, brushing aside stones and dirt. His fingers traced an intricate carving on the well's edge, a symbol strikingly similar to the motif they'd adopted, a circle enclosing a lotus entwined with a crescent moon. This wasn't just a well, Sayal whispered. It was a sacred place. Taasi's heart quickened. A place where people connected with something beyond themselves. Where they sought joy through spirit, not just survival. The group gathered around, sharing quiet reverence. Then Meera suggested, what if this is a sign? That our journey is not just about rebuilding what was lost, but rediscovering something sacred. The arrival of a stranger. Just as the festival's lanterns flickered against the darkening sky, a new figure arrived, a man tall and cloaked, moving with quiet purpose. The villagers watched him curiously as he approached Taasi and Sayal. I am Rowan, he said, voice calm but commanding. I have been searching for a place like this, a place where joy and struggle dance together. Taasi glanced at Sayal. How did you find us? Rowan smiled slightly. Sometimes the heart knows where to go before the mind understands. Over the next days, Rowan shared stories of cities far beyond their own, places where technology had swallowed human spirit whole. He spoke about the people trapped in virtual realities, forgetting how to smile, how to cry, how to feel. "You too," he said, "are lighting a path others will follow." Yet beneath his words lay a warning. But beware, not all who seek joy want it for the right reasons. Some wish to control it, to commodify it. Taasi's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" "Joy can be a currency," Rowan explained. "In your world that means power. There are those who would rather keep people numb, obedient." Sile frowned. "So we must protect this place. Protect the joy we found." Romance under the stars. That night, after the festival's closing ritual, Taasi and Sile walked beneath the starlit sky, their hands brushing together. The air was crisp, the world around them humming with quiet promise. "Taasi," Sile said softly, "through all the darkness and light you've been my constant. Your joy, it's contagious." She smiled, heart fluttering. "And you've taught me that joy isn't about perfection. It's about being real, messy, flawed, alive." They stopped by the ancient banyan, its roots like arms cradling the earth. Sile reached for her hand fully this time, fingers entwining. "I want to be part of this journey, with you. Not just for the joy, but for everything that comes with it." Taasi's breath caught. "I want that too." Their lips met briefly, a simple tender promise under the vast night sky. A test of resolve. But peace was fragile. The next morning a message arrived from the city, corporate officials seeking to purchase the land, promising modern comforts in exchange for their freedom. Atika read the letter aloud. "They want to build a tech hub here. They say we're living in the past." Myra's voice was steady. "They don't understand. We are building the future." Taasi felt the weight of choice settle on her shoulders. The battle for joy was no longer internal. It was real, external, demanding courage and clarity. "We will not sell our joy," Sile declared. "Not for all their machines or money." Taasi nodded, feeling the fire of resolve ignite within. "This place is our sanctuary. Our rebellion." The villagers gathered, ready to defend not just their land but the spirit that gave life meaning. The fight ahead would test their hearts, their bonds and their deepest beliefs. Reflection and resolve. That evening beneath the banyan tree, Taasi closed her eyes and breathed deeply. "Joy isn't easy," she whispered to herself. "It's a choice we must make every day." Sile joined her silently, resting his hand over hers. "Together," he said, "we face the shadows so the light can shine." Taasi opened her eyes, seeing not just the darkness but the stars piercing through it, a reminder that even in the darkest times joy endures. Chapter 12: The Dawn of Joy. The morning sun spilled golden light over the village, casting long shadows behind the newly lit lamps along the path. The air was thick with anticipation. Today was the day the community would face its greatest test. The corporate emissaries arrived just after dawn, their sleek vehicles glinting against the rustic backdrop. They were met not by meek villagers, but by a united group, standing firm with the symbol of the lotus and crescent moon stitched boldly on their flags. Atika stepped forward, her voice clear and unwavering. "This land is not for sale. It is the birthplace of our rediscovered joy, a joy that cannot be measured by money or machines." One of the officials scoffed, "You can't stop progress. Technology is the future." Sile replied calmly, "Progress without heart is hollow. We seek not to reject the future but to bring soul back into it." The standoff was tense. But before any threats could escalate, a gentle wind swept through the village square, carrying with it the distant chime of bells. The villagers turned to see a figure approaching, Rowan, with a group of like-minded seekers who had heard of Taasi and Sale's mission. "Joy is not a commodity," Rowan declared. "It is a human right. We stand with you." Faced with this unexpected solidarity, the officials hesitated and finally withdrew, leaving the village in peace. healing and rebirth. In the days that followed, the village blossomed into a beacon of hope. Children's laughter echoed through the fields. Elders shared stories beneath the banyan tree, and music flowed freely like the river once again. Taasi stood beside Sayal, watching as their vision unfolded. The sacred motif, the lotus entwined with the crescent moon, was painted on every home, reminding all who came that joy and struggle must coexist. "Look how far we've come," Sayal said softly. "From ruins to renewal." Taasi smiled, the warmth of the moment filling her heart. Joy is simple, it's connection, presence, acceptance. A message for the future. One evening, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and purple, Taasi sat quietly by the old well. She closed her eyes, feeling the presence of Sai Baba's guidance all around. A gentle voice echoed in her mind. True joy is found in the balance of life's light and shadows. Cherish imperfection, for it is the path to wholeness. She opened her eyes, filled with calm certainty. Joy was no longer a distant dream. It was here, lived in every breath, every smile, every imperfect moment. Taasi reached for Sayal's hand. "Our journey doesn't end here. It begins anew, every day." Sayal nodded, squeezing her hand. "Together, we will keep the flame alive." Under the vast expanse of stars, the village rested in peaceful light and shadow, a living testament to the enduring power of joy. Epilogue. Years later, travelers would come from across lands to visit the village where technology met tradition, where machines hummed softly in the background, but human hearts beat strong and free. And at the heart of it all were Taasi and Sayal, the dreamers who dared to find joy in the ruins and rebuild a world where being imperfect was the greatest perfection. Notes. Left pointing arrow 1.